The giant space station hung in orbit above Kepler 442b like a metal moon. Inside the main meeting room, alien creatures from across the galaxy sat around a massive table. Their faces showed anger, fear, and confusion. At the head of the table, Admiral Zethkar slammed all four of his crystal fists down hard. "This cannot continue," he shouted. His voice echoed off the metal walls. "The humans are out of control." The other aliens nodded their heads, tentacles, and various other body parts. They had all come here for one reason. The human ship called UN's Dakota was causing problems everywhere it went. Big problems. Commander Vextal, who looked like a giant, purple octopus, waved 3 of his arms in the air. Last week they flew through our shipping lanes at impossible speeds. They missed our cargo ships by mere inches. When we contacted them, their captain just laughed and said they were running late for dinner. A small green alien with big eyes spoke up next. They turned our peaceful mining operation into chaos. We were carefully extracting crystals from an asteroid field. The humans showed up and started using explosives. They said it was faster that way. Half our equipment was destroyed. Admiral Zethkar's crystal body glowed red with anger. "Tell them about the meditation incident." The tallest alien in the room stood up slowly. It looked like a walking tree with golden leaves. When it spoke, its voice was soft and calm. "The peaceful meditation empire has never declared war on anyone. In our 3,000-year history, we are a society built on inner peace and quiet reflection." "And then?" Admiral Zethkar demanded. "The human ship entered our sacred space during our great silent ceremony. 10 million of our people were meditating in perfect quiet. The humans activated what they called their emergency broadcast system. It played loud human music across every communication channel. Our people thought it was an attack. We declared war before we realized it was an accident. Several aliens made sounds of shock and disbelief. The tree-like alien continued. When we contacted their captain, he apologized and offered to share their music collection with us. He said it would help us relax better than meditation." A blue alien with 6 arms held up a datapad. "I have the complete list of violations. The human ship UNS Dakota has broken safety rules from 17 different species. They have caused 3 diplomatic incidents, destroyed property on 12 worlds, and somehow made first contact with a new alien race by accidentally crashing into their moon." "How do you accidentally crash into a moon?" asked a small, furry creature. According to their report, they were trying to skip their ship off the atmosphere like a stone on water. It was supposed to be a shortcut. The room fell silent except for the humming of the space station's engines. Finally, Admiral Zethkar spoke again. "Who is their captain?" The blue alien checked his datapad. "Jake Morrison, human male, age 35. His crew includes First Officer Lisa Carter, Chief Engineer Ben Rodriguez, Weapons Officer Tony Walsh, and Medical Officer Amy Foster. Their ship is registered as a deep space exploration vessel, but they seem to treat it like a racing ship." "What was their last reported incident?" Admiral Zethkar asked. Commander Vextal pulled up a holographic display. The room filled with images of space pirates attacking a cargo convoy. Then the human ship appeared, moving in ways that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size. The pirates had surrounded a merchant convoy. Standard protocol would be to call for backup and wait for proper military support. The humans charged straight into the middle of the fight. The hologram showed the Dakota spinning and diving between the pirate ships like a fish swimming through rocks. Explosions lit up space around it, but somehow it never got hit. "They used their emergency escape pods as weapons," Commander Vextal continued. "They fired them at the pirates like missiles, then collected them afterward and put them back in their ship. When asked about this tactic, Captain Morrison said they needed the pods back because they were expensive." A reptilian alien hissed in disbelief. "That is not what escape pods are for. The humans won the fight in 12 minutes, Commander Vextal said. No civilian ships were harmed. All pirates were captured or driven away. The merchants wanted to give them a medal. And the problem is?" asked the small furry creature. Admiral Zethkar stood up, his crystal body now glowing bright red. "The problem is that they make the rest of us look like children playing with toys. Every time they show up, they do impossible things and make it look easy. They break every rule we have, ignore every safety protocol, and somehow everything works out better than if they had followed proper procedure. The room was quiet again. The aliens looked at each other, unsure what to say. "I propose we send an inspection team," Admiral Zethkar announced. "We will examine their ship and their methods. If they cannot prove that their actions are safe and reasonable, we will ban all human ships from using our space lanes." The blue alien raised one of his 6 hands. "Who will lead this inspection? It could be dangerous." "Inspector Krill Thana has volunteered," Admiral Zethkar said. "She has experience with difficult cases." As if summoned by her name, the doors to the meeting room opened. A tall, thin alien walked in. She had 6 arms, gray skin, and eyes that missed nothing. Her uniform was perfectly clean and pressed. She carried a datapad in each hand and had 4 more attached to her belt. "Inspector Krill Thana reporting for duty," she said in a crisp, professional voice. "I have reviewed the files on the human vessel Dakota. I will need a team of 5 specialists and a fully equipped inspection ship." "Done," Admiral Zethkar said. "How long do you estimate this inspection will take?" Inspector Krill Thana checked one of her datapads. "Based on standard protocols, approximately 6 days for a complete safety and compliance review." The tree-like alien swayed slightly. "Be careful, Inspector. Humans are unpredictable." Inspector Krill Thana's expression did not change. "I have been conducting safety inspections for 47 years across 233 different species. I have never encountered a problem I could not solve with proper procedure and documentation." Admiral Zethkar's crystal body returned to its normal blue color. "Then it is decided. Inspector Krill Thana will lead a full inspection of the human vessel. If they pass, we will consider new guidelines for human ships. If they fail, humans will be restricted to their own solar system." The meeting ended with the sound of various alien species making their versions of agreement. As the delegates filed out, Inspector Krill Thana remained behind, studying her datapads. She had no idea what she was about to get herself into. The UNS Dakota floated quietly in space near the edge of human territory. It looked like any other exploration ship from the outside, but Inspector Krill Thana could see scorch marks along its hull, and what appeared to be extra weapons bolted
on in places where they definitely should not be. Her inspection ship docked with the Dakota with a soft bump. Inspector Krill Thana checked her 6 datapads one more time before stepping through the airlock. Behind her came her team of 5
alien specialists, each carrying their own equipment and looking nervous. Captain Jake Morrison was waiting for them in the docking bay. He was a tall human with short brown hair and a smile that seemed too relaxed for someone about to be inspected by the Galactic Maritime Safety Council. He wore a uniform that was clean, but looked like it had seen many adventures. "Welcome aboard the Dakota," Captain Morrison said, extending his hand. "I'm Jake Morrison. Hope you folks like coffee." Inspector Krill Thana did not take his hand. She was busy making notes on one of her datapads. "I am Inspector Krill Thana. This is a formal safety inspection. Please gather your senior staff immediately." "Sure thing," Jake said. He touched a button on the wall. "All senior staff to docking bay 2, bring the good coffee." Within minutes, 4 more humans arrived. Lisa Carter, the first officer, was a woman with red hair tied back in a ponytail. She was carrying a cup of something that smelled strong enough to melt metal. Ben Rodriguez, the chief engineer, had grease stains on his uniform and tools hanging from his belt. Tony Walsh, the weapons officer, looked like he had just come from the gym. Amy Foster, the medical officer, was wiping her hands on a towel and looked tired. "Coffee?" Jake offered, holding out a steaming cup. One of the alien inspectors, a creature that looked like a walking fish, accepted the cup. The moment the coffee touched his protective suit, the material began to dissolve. The fish alien dropped the cup and backed away in horror. "Sorry about that," Amy Foster said. "Our coffee is a bit stronger than most species can handle. Ben uses it to clean engine parts when we run out of proper solvent." Inspector Krill Thana made several rapid notes. "Violation number 1, serving hazardous materials to visiting officials." "It's not hazardous," Jake protested. "It's just coffee, really good coffee." "Your coffee dissolved his suit," Inspector Krill Thana pointed out. "Well, yeah, But that's because his suit was made of cheap plastic. Good coffee should be able to do that. Inspector Krilthana decided to move on before this conversation got worse. I require a tour of your engine room. Ben Rodriguez grinned. You're gonna love this. The group walked through corridors that looked normal at first glance, but Inspector Krilthana noticed things that made her uncomfortable. Cables were held in place with colorful tape. Panels had been removed and never put back. Strange humming sounds came from behind the walls. The engine room made everything worse. The main fusion reactor was glowing brighter than it should be. Warning lights flashed in colors that Inspector Krilthana had never seen before. The whole room vibrated with barely controlled energy. Beautiful, isn't she? Ben said proudly, patting a control panel. Been running her at 147% capacity for 6 months now. Purrs like a kitten. Inspector Krilthana's datapad started smoking. She quickly switched to another one. That is impossible. Fusion reactors cannot operate above 100% capacity without exploding. Sure they can, Ben said. You just have to ask them nicely and give them the right encouragement. See, I've been feeding the reactor a mixture of standard fuel and some stuff I found on that crystal planet we visited last month. Makes everything run smoother. Unknown substances in the reactor core, Inspector Krilthana muttered, typing rapidly. Violation number 12. One of her inspectors, a being made of living metal, approached the gravity generator. This equipment has been modified beyond recognition, he announced in a voice like grinding gears. Oh yeah, Ben said happily. The original gravity system broke down about a year ago. Couldn't get replacement parts out here in deep space, so I built a new one using spare parts from the food replicator and some creative thinking. The food replicator? Inspector Krilthana asked weakly. Don't worry, we can still make food. Takes a little longer now and sometimes the sandwiches float around the room, but it's no big deal. Inspector Krilthana looked around the engine room with growing horror. Every piece of equipment had been changed, modified, or improved in ways that violated basic engineering principles. The navigation computer was held together with tape and optimism. The life support system included parts that she was sure came from a music player. How does any of this work, she asked. Ben shrugged. Educated guesswork and pure spite mostly, plus a lot of talking to the machines. They like to be appreciated. You talk to the machines? Sure. Doesn't everyone? This old girl has been taking care of us for 3 years now. She's earned some respect. Amy Foster stepped forward. Would you like to see the medical bay next? Inspector Krilthana was not sure she wanted to, but it was her job. The medical bay looked almost normal until Amy started explaining her recent improvements. I've been using the ship's transporters to perform surgery, Amy said cheerfully. The technology wasn't designed for biological applications, but it works great once you figure out the right settings. I can remove a tumor and transport it directly into space without even making an incision. That should be impossible, whispered one of the alien inspectors. Lots of things should be impossible, Amy replied. But when you're 3 months away from the nearest medical station and someone needs emergency surgery, you learn to get creative. Last week I used the transporter to fix a broken bone by beaming out the damaged parts and beaming in some bone growth stimulator. Inspector Krilthana had filled up 3 data pads and was starting on a 4th. Every system on the ship violated multiple safety regulations. The humans had taken standard equipment and modified it in ways that should have killed them all. But everything was working, not just working, but working better than it should. The ship was faster, more efficient, and more capable than anything she had seen before. I need to see your weapon systems, Inspector Krilthana said, though she was beginning to dread what she might find. Tony Walsh led them to the weapons control room. It looked like a mad scientist's laboratory. Extra controls had been added, everywhere. Weapon systems that should never be on the same ship were somehow integrated into a single, terrifying whole. This is my pride and joy, Tony said, gesturing to a control panel covered in switches and buttons. I've improved the torpedo systems, upgraded the energy weapons, and added a few special surprises for emergencies. What kind of surprises? Inspector Krilthana asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know. Well, we don't always have proper torpedoes, so I've learned to improvise. Mining charges work great if you adjust the timers. Sensor probes make excellent guided missiles if you remove the scientific equipment and add explosives. Last month I loaded a torpedo tube with a shipping container full of angry space wasps we collected from that jungle planet. Space wasps? One of the alien inspectors squeaked. They're really effective, Tony explained. Pirates hate being swarmed by angry insects. Plus it's non-lethal mostly. Inspector Krill Thana realized that her fourth datapad was now completely full. She had documented more safety violations in 1 hour than she usually found in an entire month of inspections. The worst part was that none of the humans seemed to think they were doing anything wrong. They were proud of their modifications. They talked about their ship like it was a living thing that they loved and cared for. I think I've seen enough for now, Inspector Krill Thana announced. As they walked back toward the docking bay, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed and an automated voice announced, "Emergency distress signal received. Colony ship under attack. All hands to battle stations." Captain Morrison's relaxed expression immediately changed to one of focused determination. "Sorry, folks, but we've got work to do. Lisa, get us moving. Ben, give me everything the engines have got. Tony, prep the special ammunition. Amy, set up the medical bay for casualties." The humans scattered to their positions with practiced efficiency. Inspector Krill Thana and her team found themselves standing alone in the corridor as the ship around them came alive with purposeful energy. She had a feeling that her inspection was about to become much more interesting. The Dakota jumped to faster than light speed so quickly that Inspector Krill Thana's stomach felt like it was trying to escape through her ears. Her alien inspection team grabbed onto whatever they could find as the ship shook and vibrated around them. "Is this normal?" she shouted over the noise of the engines. Captain Morrison was strapped into his command chair, completely calm despite the chaos. "Ben's pushing the engines pretty hard today. We should be at the colony ship in about 10 minutes instead of the usual 30. The recommended safe transit time is 45 minutes, Inspector Krill Thana said, checking one of her data pads. "Yeah, but people are dying while we follow recommendations," Lisa Carter replied from her position at the navigation controls. She was somehow managing to eat a sandwich while monitoring 3 different displays and playing what appeared to be a game of 3-dimensional chess with the computer. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a bang that made Inspector Krill Thana's teeth rattle. Through the main view screen, she could see a large civilian colony ship surrounded by 6 smaller vessels painted in black and red. The pirates were firing energy weapons at the colony ship's shields, which were already failing. "Colony ship Peaceful Journey, this is Captain Morrison of the UNS Dakota," Jake spoke into his communication device. "We're here to help. Get your people away from the outer sections and brace for some rough flying." A scared voice crackled back through the speakers. "Thank God you're here. Our shields are down to 12%. We have 3,000 civilians aboard, including 800 children." Jake's expression hardened. "Tony, what do we have for special ammunition today?" Tony Walsh was already at his weapons station, grinning like a child with a new toy. "Got those mining charges we picked up on Beta 7, some sensor probes I've been modifying, and that container of space wasps is still loaded in Tube 4. "Space wasps?" Inspector Krill Thana asked weakly. "Long story," Amy Foster said as she hurried past carrying medical supplies. "They're angrier than you might think." One of the alien inspectors, the one who looked like a walking fish, was studying the tactical display. "There are 6 pirate ships. Standard military doctrine requires at least 3 vessels to engage a force of that size safely. Standard doctrine is for people who don't have Ben Rodriguez keeping their engines running," Jake replied. "Lisa, take us in fast and low. Use the colony ship as cover." The Dakota suddenly accelerated toward the battle at a speed that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. Inspector Krill Thana watched the tactical display in growing amazement as the human ship weaved between the pirate vessels like a dancer moving through a crowd. "First target is the big one on the left," Jake announced. "Tony, give them one of your modified sensor probes." "With pleasure, Captain." A small object launched from the Dakota and streaked toward the largest pirate ship. Inspector Krill Thana expected to see a normal explosion, but instead the probe seemed to burrow into the pirate ship's hull before detonating from the inside. The entire vessel went dark and began drifting. "How did you do that?" she asked. "Sensor. Probes are designed to penetrate shields and armor to get readings," Tony explained while loading another weapon. "I just replaced the scientific equipment with explosives and programmed them to think enemy ships are really interesting asteroids they need to examine closely." Two pirate ships turned toward the Dakota, firing their weapons. Lisa Carter seemed to anticipate where the shots would be before they were fired, spinning the ship in directions that made Inspector Krilthana dizzy. "Ben, I need some of that special gravity manipulation you've been working on," Jake called out. "Coming right up, Captain." Suddenly, the space around the Dakota began to shimmer and bend. The pirate ship's energy beams curved away from the human vessel as if they were being deflected by invisible barriers. Inspector Krilthana's metal teammate was studying his instruments with growing disbelief. "They're creating localized gravitational anomalies," he announced. "This should require massive amounts of energy and precise calculations." "Ben's really good at math," Lisa said, still somehow managing to eat her sandwich while piloting through the impossible maneuvers. One of the pirate ships moved to attack the colony ship directly. Jake's expression became deadly serious. "That's not acceptable," he said quietly. "Lisa, put us between them and the civilians. Tony, Tube 4. "The space wasps?" Tony asked with obvious delight. "The space wasps?" The Dakota spun around and positioned itself directly in the path of the attacking pirate ship. A large container launched from the human vessel and impacted the pirate ship's hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pirate ship began to shake and roll as thousands of angry space insects swarmed through its corridors. Through the communication channels, Inspector Krilthana could hear the pirates screaming and shouting as they abandoned their attack to deal with the buzzing, stinging invasion. "That's biological warfare," one of her inspectors whispered. "That's creative problem-solving," Jake corrected. "The wasps are non-lethal. Mostly. They'll just keep the pirates busy while we deal with the others." The remaining 3 pirate ships were now focusing all their fire on the Dakota. Energy beams lit up space around the human vessel, but somehow, none of them found their target. Lisa Carter was flying the ship in patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "How is she doing that?" Inspector Krilthana demanded. "Practice," Lisa replied, taking another bite of her sandwich. "Plus, I've been studying pirate attack patterns for 2 years. They're predictable once you know what to look for. Also, this chess game is helping me think 3 moves ahead." Jake stood up from his command chair. "Ben, can you give me ramming speed?" "Ramming speed," Inspector Krilthana shrieked. "You cannot ram another ship in space combat. The collision would destroy both vessels." "Not if you do it right," Jake said calmly. "Tony, load tubes 1 and 2 with those mining charges. Set them for proximity detonation." The Dakota accelerated directly toward the largest remaining pirate ship. Inspector Krilthana watched in horror as the distance between the 2 vessels closed rapidly. At the last possible second, Tony fired both mining charges. The explosions went off just as the Dakota passed over the pirate ship, close enough that Inspector Krilthana could see the surprised faces of the pirates through their viewports. The pirate vessel's shields collapsed and its engines went dead, but the Dakota emerged from the maneuver completely undamaged. "Ramming speed doesn't mean you actually ram them," Jake explained to the terrified alien inspectors. "It means you get close enough to make them think you're going to ram them, then hit them with something else while they're too scared to shoot straight." The last 2 pirate ships had apparently seen enough. They turned and fled at maximum speed, leaving their disabled companions behind. Colony ship. "Peaceful journey. This is the Dakota," Jake said into his communication device. "The immediate threat has been neutralized. Do you need medical assistance?" "Negative, Dakota. Thanks to you, we only have minor injuries. How can we ever repay you?" Jake smiled. "Do you folks happen to have any coffee? And maybe some of that apple pie I've been hearing about?" Inspector Krilthana looked around the bridge of the Dakota. The humans were already beginning post-battle procedures, checking systems and preparing to assist the colony ship. They acted like what had just happened was completely routine. She had just witnessed 6 pirate ships defeated by 1 human vessel using tactics that violated every principle of space combat she had ever learned. The humans had used improvised weapons, impossible maneuvers and strategies that should have gotten them all killed. Instead, they had achieved a perfect victory without taking any damage and without harming any civilians. Inspector Krilthana realized she needed to completely reconsider everything she thought she knew about safety regulations. The battle was over, but Inspector Krilthana felt like her inspection had just begun. She watched through the view screen as the Dakota moved toward the colony ship Peaceful Journey. The civilian vessel had scorch marks along its hull, and several sections showed damage from the pirate attack. "Amy, take a medical team over to check on their wounded," Captain Morrison ordered. "Ben, scan their engines and see if they need any repairs." "Already on it, Captain," Ben Rodriguez replied from his engineering station. "Their main drive is running rough, and their life support is showing stress fractures in 3 sections." Inspector Krilthana made notes on her datapad. At least the humans were following proper post-combat procedures by offering assistance to the civilian vessel. Then she watched Ben Rodriguez do something that made her question everything she knew about space engineering. Ben opened his tool kit and pulled out what appeared to be a roll of silver tape, a bottle of some kind of liquid, and several small metal objects that Inspector Krilthana did not recognize. He put on a spacesuit and headed for the airlock. "What is he planning to do?" she asked. "Fix their ship," Lisa Carter replied, as if this was the most normal thing in the universe. "With tape?" "It's really good tape," Tony Walsh said helpfully. Inspector Krilthana and her team watched through the external cameras as Ben Rodriguez floated over to the colony ship and began working on their damaged hull. He was using the silver tape to seal cracks, spraying the mysterious liquid on damaged sections, and somehow attaching the small metal objects to critical systems. "This is impossible," declared her metal-bodied inspector. "Hull repairs require specialized equipment, replacement parts, and weeks of work in a proper shipyard." "Ben doesn't believe in impossible," Amy Foster said as she returned from the colony ship. "Their people are fine, by the way. A few bumps and bruises, but nothing serious. They're very grateful." Through the communication system, they could hear Ben talking to someone on the colony ship. "Try your engines now," he said. The colony ship's engines, which had been barely functioning, suddenly roared to life with smooth, steady power. The damaged sections of the hull looked almost new. Even the scorch marks from the pirate weapons had somehow been cleaned away. "How?" Inspector Krilthana whispered. "Ben has a gift," Captain Morrison explained. "He understands machines in ways that most people understand friends. He can look at a broken engine and know exactly what it needs to feel better." Ben's voice came over the communication system again. "Captain, I've improved their efficiency by about 30% while I was at it. Should cut their travel time to the colony by 2 days." "Improved their efficiency?" Inspector Krilthana asked weakly. "Ben can't help himself," Lisa explained. "He sees a machine that's not running at its best and he has to fix it. It's like a compulsion." The colony ship's captain contacted the Dakota directly. "Captain Morrison, I don't know how to thank you and your crew. Not only did you save us from the pirates, but your engineer just fixed problems we've been dealing with for years. Our ship is running better than the day it was built." "Just doing our job," Jake replied. "You folks stay safe out there." Inspector Krilthana was furiously taking notes when another alarm sounded. This time it was not a distress call, but a proximity alert. A new ship was approaching fast. "It's a galactic patrol vessel," Lisa announced. "Heavy cruiser class. They're hailing us." "Put them through," Jake ordered. The view screen filled with the image of an alien captain that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird. "This is Captain Escatal of the Galactic Patrol Ship Righteous Authority. We received reports of pirate activity in this sector." "The situation has been resolved, Captain," Jake replied politely. "We captured 4 pirate vessels and drove off the other 2. The civilian ship is safe." Captain Scatal's reptilian features showed surprise. "You engaged 6 pirate ships with a single vessel? That was extremely reckless. Proper procedure requires waiting for Galactic Patrol backup before engaging superior numbers." "People were dying," Jake said simply. "We couldn't wait. Nevertheless, Your actions violated standard engagement protocols. I'm going to have to cite you for reckless endangerment and failure to follow proper military procedure." Inspector Krilthana watched Jake's face carefully. She expected him to argue or make excuses. Instead, he just nodded. "I understand your position, Captain, but I'd make the same choice again." Captain Siskatal was about to respond when another voice cut in over the communication channel. It was the captain of the colony ship. "Now wait just a minute," the civilian captain said angrily. "These humans saved 3,000 lives, including 800 children. They risked their own lives to protect us when no one else was around to help. If you want to cite someone, cite the pirates who attacked us, not the heroes who saved us." "The regulations exist for good reasons," Captain Escatal replied stiffly. "The regulations would have left us all dead," the colony ship captain shot back. "These humans did in 15 minutes what your galactic patrol would have taken hours to accomplish. And they did it without losing a single life on either side." Inspector Krilthana found herself studying the tactical recordings of the battle. The humans had defeated 6 pirate ships without destroying any of them. The pirates who had been disabled would be captured and tried, rather than killed. Even the crew swarmed by space wasps would recover completely once the insects were removed. "Captain Escatal," she interrupted. "This is Inspector Krilthana of the Galactic Maritime Safety Council. I am conducting an official inspection of this vessel. I would like to review the tactical data from this engagement." "Of course, Inspector. Transmitting our sensor logs now." Inspector Krilthana compared the Galactic Patrol's sensor data with what she had witnessed firsthand. The numbers were remarkable. The Dakota had engaged superior numbers, achieved total victory, avoided civilian casualties, minimized enemy casualties, and completed the entire operation in less than 20 minutes. According to standard military calculations, the Dakota should have been destroyed within the first 5 minutes of combat. "Captain Morrison," she said slowly, "your crew's performance in this engagement was statistically impossible." "We don't pay much attention to statistics," Jake replied. "We focus on results." Inspector Krilthana looked around the bridge of the Dakota. She saw Lisa Carter finishing her chess game while simultaneously running post-battle diagnostics. Tony Walsh was cleaning his weapons and humming what sounded like a human war song. Amy Foster was organizing medical supplies and checking on the alien inspection team to make sure they were not injured. Ben Rodriguez was already back from his repairs, covered in grease and grinning with satisfaction. These humans had just accomplished something that military academies would study for years. They had turned what should have been a disaster into a perfect rescue operation. They had saved lives, captured criminals, and helped civilians, all while making it look as easy as breathing. And they were treating it like just another day at work. "Inspector Krilthana," Captain Escatal said over the communication channel, "will you be filing charges against this vessel for violation of engagement protocols?" Inspector Krilthana looked at her data pads, filled with hundreds of safety violations and protocol breaches. Then she looked at the colony ship, safe and sound with its 3,000 grateful civilians. She thought about the 6 pirate ships that would no longer be terrorizing merchant vessels. "I will be filing a report," she said carefully, "but not the kind of report you might expect." After Captain Suskatal signed off, clearly confused by her response, Inspector Krilthana approached Captain Morrison. "I need to understand something," she said. "How do you train your crew to perform like this? What kind of military academy produces officers who can accomplish the impossible?" Jake laughed, a warm sound that filled the bridge. "Military academy? Lisa learned to fly racing shuttles for fun. Tony was a professional athlete before he joined the crew. Ben grew up fixing farm equipment on a frontier world. Amy studied medicine because she wanted to help people. None of us went to a military academy. Then how do you know how to fight like this?" "We don't fight," Jake said seriously. "We solve problems. Sometimes the problems involve people shooting at us, but the principle is the same. We look at what needs to be done, figure out the best way to do it, and then we do it." Inspector Krilthana realized that everything she had thought she understood about military tactics, safety protocols, and proper procedures was based on assumptions that humans simply did not share. The humans were not breaking rules because they were reckless or ignorant. They were breaking rules because they had found better ways to accomplish their goals. She was going to have to completely rewrite her report. 2 weeks later, Inspector Krilthana stood once again before the Galactic Maritime Safety Council. The same aliens who had been angry and frustrated before now sat quietly, waiting to hear her report. Admiral Zethkar's crystal body glowed with anticipation. Inspector Krilthana, Admiral Zethkar began. We trust you have prepared a comprehensive report on the human vessel Dakota and its crew. I have, Admiral. Inspector Krilthana activated her data display, showing the familiar image of the human ship. However, my conclusions may surprise this council. The reptilian representative leaned forward. Surely you found evidence of their dangerous practices. Your preliminary reports mentioned hundreds of safety violations. I documented 437 separate violations of established safety protocols. Inspector Krilthana confirmed. The human vessel operates in ways that should theoretically result in catastrophic failure within hours. Murmurs of satisfaction rippled through the council. Admiral Zethkar's body glowed brighter. Then you recommend immediate restrictions on human spacefaring activities. No, Admiral, I do not. The room fell completely silent. Several aliens looked like they had not heard her correctly. I'm sorry, Inspector, said the tree-like representative from the Peaceful Meditation Empire. Did you say you do not recommend restrictions? Inspector Krilthana changed her display to show statistical data. During my inspection period, the Dakota responded to 3 emergency situations. They rescued a colony ship with 3,000 civilians, assisted a damaged merchant vessel, and prevented a diplomatic incident between 2 minor species by mediating their dispute. And they probably violated dozens of regulations doing it, Admiral Zethkar said impatiently. They violated 215 regulations during those 3 incidents, Inspector Krilthana agreed. They also achieved a 100% success rate with 0 casualties and completed each mission in roughly 1/3 the time that standard procedures would require. Commander Vextel waved his tentacles dismissively. Statistics can be misleading, Inspector. What matters is following proper procedure. Inspector Krilthana changed her display again. I have here the official records of similar emergency responses by vessels following standard procedures over the past 5 years. The average success rate is 67%. The average response time is 3 hours and 22 minutes. The average casualty rate is 14%. The numbers hung in the air like an accusation. The alien representatives looked uncomfortable. The humans achieved their results through luck, suggested the small, furry representative. I thought so too, Inspector Krilthana replied. So I requested detailed tactical analysis from the Galactic Patrol. Captain SS Katal was kind enough to provide comprehensive data on the pirate engagement. The display showed a complex 3-dimensional recreation of the battle. The alien delegates watched as the Dakota weaved between enemy ships, deployed unconventional weapons, and achieved total victory through what appeared to be impossible maneuvers. According to our best military strategists, Inspector Krilthana continued, the humans should have been destroyed within the first 5 minutes of this engagement. Instead, they defeated 6 pirate vessels without sustaining damage and without killing a single enemy crew member. Admiral Zethkar's glow was becoming dimmer. How do you explain this contradiction? The humans operate under a completely different paradigm, Inspector Krilthana said. They do not follow our rules because our rules are inadequate for their methods. She changed the display to show technical specifications. Their chief engineer, Ben Rodriguez, improved the efficiency of 17 different systems during my inspection, not by violating safety protocols, but by understanding the equipment better than the species who designed it. That's impossible, declared the blue alien with 6 arms. I have video evidence of Rodriguez repairing a colony ship's engines using improvised materials. The repairs not only fixed the damage, but improved the ship's performance by 30%. When I asked him to explain his methods, he showed me calculations that our best engineers confirmed as accurate. Inspector Krilthana paused, looking around the room at the confused and worried faces of the council members. The problem is not that humans are dangerous, she said quietly. The problem is that they make the rest of us look incompetent. Admiral Zethkar stood up, his crystal body now glowing red with anger. That is an unacceptable conclusion, Inspector. These humans cannot simply ignore regulations that have kept space travel safe for thousands of years. With respect, Admiral, space travel has not been particularly safe. The humans have a survival rate 89% higher than the galactic average. Their mission completion rate is 340% above standard. They have never caused a civilian casualty. They turned a mining operation into chaos, Commander Vextal protested. They completed the mining operation in 1/10 the time with twice the efficiency, Inspector Krilthana corrected. The chaos was actually a demonstration of advanced extraction techniques that your mining guild has since requested permission to study. The room was quiet again. Inspector Krilthana could see that many of the delegates were beginning to understand what she was trying to tell them. "What do you propose, Inspector?" asked the tree-like representative. "I propose the Morrison Protocol," Inspector Krilthana announced. "A new classification system that recognizes human capabilities and establishes separate operational guidelines for human vessels." Admiral Zethkar sat down heavily. "You want us to rewrite thousands of years of safety regulations because of one ship?" "I want us to learn from them," Inspector Krilthana said. "Captain Morrison has agreed to establish a training program. Alien crews can volunteer to serve alongside humans to learn their methods. We can study their techniques and adapt what works for other species." The small, furry alien raised a paw. "Would this training be mandatory?" "Absolutely not, Inspector." Krilthana replied quickly. "Captain Morrison was very specific about that. He said, and I quote, 'Not everyone is ready for the full human experience.'" "What would this program involve?" asked Commander Vextal. Inspector Krilthana smiled, an expression that looked strange on her usually serious face. Captain Morrison suggested starting with coffee tolerance training. Several aliens made sounds of horror. The fish-like alien who had his protective suit dissolved was shaking his head vigorously. "I have volunteered to be the first permanent alien crew member aboard the Dakota," Inspector Krilthana continued. "I will document their methods and develop training materials for other species who wish to learn." Admiral Zethkar looked around the room at his fellow council members. "All in favor of the Morrison Protocol?" To Inspector Krilthana's surprise, every hand, tentacle, and appendage in the room was raised. "Motion passed unanimously," Admiral Zethkar announced. "Inspector Krilthana, you are hereby assigned as permanent liaison to the human vessel Dakota. Try not to get yourself killed." 3 days later, Inspector Krilthana stood in the cargo bay of the Dakota, watching her belongings being loaded. Aboard, Captain Morrison approached with 2 cups of coffee. "Welcome to the crew," he said, offering her one of the cups. Inspector Krilthana accepted the coffee carefully. She had been practicing with gradually stronger concentrations for the past week. "Thank you, Captain. I'm looking forward to learning your methods." "Just remember," Jake said with a grin, "when something seems impossible, that usually means we just haven't figured out the right approach yet." Inspector Krilthana took a small sip of the coffee. It was strong enough to melt metal, but she was getting used to it. "I've already submitted my first report under the Morrison Protocol. 17 alien species have requested to send observers." "The more the merrier," Jake replied. "Just make sure they understand that we do things a little differently out here." As the Dakota prepared to depart for their next mission, Inspector Krilthana reflected on how much her understanding had changed. The humans were not reckless or dangerous. They were innovators who refused to accept limitations that other species took for granted. She looked around the cargo bay at the human crew preparing for departure. Ben Rodriguez was humming while he checked engine readings that should have been impossible. Lisa Carter was reviewing star charts while somehow also reading a book and listening to music. Tony Walsh was organizing ammunition that included everything, from standard torpedoes to containers of angry insects. Amy Foster was updating medical protocols to include techniques that had never been attempted before. These humans had taught her that safety was not about following rules. Real safety came from competence, creativity, and the willingness to find better solutions to old problems. The Dakota jumped to faster than light speed, carrying Inspector Krilthana toward adventures she could never have imagined. Behind them, 17 alien observer ships followed at a safe distance, their crews eager to learn what humans called the impossible. Inspector Krilthana took another sip of her coffee and smiled. She had found something more valuable than safety regulations. She had found a crew that treated the impossible as just another interesting challenge to solve.